Clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Daughtry,
Present.
Councilmember Dunn.
She's here.
Here. Thank you. Mayor Frizzell.
Present.
Thank you. Labor Representative Julian is absent and Mayor Marine is absent today. Councilmember Merrill.
Here, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Nearing.
Here.
Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Roberts.
I'm here.
Thank you. And Councilmember Schweddy.
Present.
Thank you, Chair. We do have a quorum of board members. For our board alternates, we have Councilmember Fulcher, Councilmember Payne, and Mayor Matsumoto Wright online. And then we also have Mike Gallagher, Councilmember, in the room. That concludes roll.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're on to public comment. We take public comments from the audience and then remote comments. Each speaker has 3 minutes to provide comments. Remarks must be relevant to community transit services, programs, projects, or activities. And first we'll start with in-room. Is there anyone? Well, we have a couple that are signed up, right? We'll start with those. So we have a Joseph Beck. Mr. Beck, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep.
Pardon me here. Get closer if you don't mind. Again, for the record, my name is Joseph Beck. I live at 2203 172nd Street Northeast. That's in Marysville. The zip code is 98271. I've been running the transit system for about 2 years now, a little less than that. And these are just, some of these are the comments that I have are my opinion. One, the cultures don't seem to mix between TransDev and community transit. TransDev, from what I've been told, is a nonprofit that is dedicated to providing more riders. Can you hear me okay?
I need you to hold your speaker.
Okay, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
Hand motions are great, but.
Okay, yeah, right. Never mind. TransDev is dedicated to making eventually a profit, I believe, from what I've been told. Whereas you folks, community transit, are dedicated to serving the public. The two cultures, from a management standpoint, and I have some expertise in this, in that I have a graduate degree in management. I've managed two nonprofit organizations, and the cultures don't seem to mix very well. Again, in my opinion, I don't know what can be done about that. But I just think that should be something that the board should be aware of. It's probably a long-standing issue between the two cultures. Change at the top is happening quite a bit within TransDev, from what I understand. Here locally, I understand that they're also based out of Indiana. So they're not touching ground with what's going on here. That's number one. Number two, I would suggest, in terms of service delivery, that perhaps you can get those folks that schedule the rides to ride with the buses twice a month to see how long it takes for those rides to get from point A to point B. I've literally been on the bus for an hour and a half when I could be home within 15 minutes. What happens is that generally, just 2 weeks ago, I was on the bus. We were 5 minutes from my place, and instead we went into Arlington, and it took another 35, 40 minutes for me to get back to my place. Perhaps again, if someone, the operations of TransDev can require that those that schedule the rides ride the transit system twice a month to see how it actually works. This may be also in relation to your technology, and that maybe is something that you need to look at. I don't know. What I do know is that it takes an awful long time to get from point A to point B, or it takes an awful long time to be picked up at times, more often than not. That gets frustrating for the rider, person or persons that you are, obligated to serve.
Okay, Mr. Beck, your
Yeah.
time's you're 30 seconds over. Can you wrap it up in 30 seconds?
Yes, yes, those are my two major
Yep.
points. However, I've been told by a bus driver that in your labor contract, and I'm really big on labor, I really am, okay? But in your labor contract, folks are allowed to call out an hour before they're scheduled to come to work. In other words, you're left high and dry for drivers. Now, that hurts the public, especially on a day like today. If they can call out an hour ahead of time, all of a sudden the service is interrupted. So,
Okay, Mr. Beck, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it.
thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, our second commenter that signed up is John Indu Ninguru. And I'm sure I just butchered that horribly, but appreciate, maybe you can share your name with us and appreciate your comments. You have 3 minutes to make your comments, please.
Good afternoon. My last name is pronounced Ndunguru.
Okay, just like I said it, right? Pretty much, yeah, that's it.
Thank you for trying nevertheless.
Yeah, yeah.
Good afternoon to you all. I have a very straightforward question. Actually, I don't need 3 minutes. I only need 30 seconds. I was just curious about your electrification plans. I ride the bus occasionally, by and large, happy with the service. I was just curious about what the community transit plans are with respect to transitioning from gas to electrification. So that's rather curious to hear what agenda that is and what the timelines might be.
Well, we're just here to hear today, and maybe somebody can reach back again. Yeah, we'll get you connected on that. It's a long answer. It's more than 3 minutes. So
Okay,
trust
okay.
me to answer that. So
Thank
thank
you.
you for coming. Appreciate your comments. Yeah. Anybody else in the room like to make public comments today? Nice big crowd. Any going once, going twice? Okay, we'll close that part of public comments. We're going now to remote. Do we have anybody online that wants to make a remote comment? I think they would raise their hand if they would like to do so, to speak. Going once, going twice? Nobody online? Okay, we'll close public comments.
Mr. Chair.
Oh.
Sorry, could I ask a question? In addition to following up with our last speaker, will somebody be following up with Mr. Beck on transdev? Or, well, I guess on his three, but transdev sound like one particularly important. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
you betcha.
thanks.
And we have his contact information, so, okay, perfect. All right, we'll close public comments then and go on to presentations. And we've got our first presentation, CEO Elgin Fritz is going to introduce our speaker.
Right, DeVore Jurassic, come on up. I think everybody on the board is familiar with DeVore. He's our contract lobbyist in Olympia. And he's here to give his final report on the 2025 session. I'm sure by now, all of you in your host jurisdictions are aware of how the session came out in general. It was a historic session. It was characterized by a lot of new folks in new leadership positions, some financial headwinds, some tragic losses, just a very intense and historic session. DeVore is here to fill you in on how community transit fared over the course of the session and what we worked on and how that stuff came out. So I'll turn it over to him to report. He was our eyes and ears and voice at times down there in Olympia, did a fantastic job. So DeVore, take it away.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rick. Yes, DeVore Jurassic, I'm your state lobbyist and proud to say I've represented you for 24 sessions. So, and everyone gets better. Everyone seems to get better, even though there's a lot going on in the world and everything else. But as Rick said, the 2025 session was one of the most difficult and challenging sessions we've had in many years. We started off with a multi-billion-dollar deficit in both the operating budget and the transportation budgets. We also had, for the first time in 12 years, a new governor. And with a new governor comes new executive staff and policy staff. And with the new governor also comes new state agency directors. So a lot of new stuff coming to be in this last session. For example, one of the new directors is Julie Meredith of WashDOT, who we've worked with in the past and look forward to working with in the future. On top of that, you always get new legislators coming and going. We had, I think, 21 seats change over this last session, most of them in the House, but some in the Senate. People retiring, people moving on, people going from the House to the Senate. So you had a whole bunch of new folks there with their staff. And then you have a new federal administration with possible unknown cuts in the future. So you add all that together, plus a variety of other things that occurred during the session. And it was one that I'm surprised that we were able to wrap it up in time in 105 days and get out of town. So, but like I said, I've been doing this for a little while, and this was definitely challenging and different than any past session that I can remember. So, so community transit, we knew that we were going to have a hard time this session fiscally. So we ramped up our legislative efforts in engaging our legislators on our priority issues last summer and also early on this session. We had good meetings with our Snohomish County delegation, as well as the chairs and vice chairs and ranking members of the House and Senate Transportation Committees. During the session, Rick was in Olympia several times, meeting with legislators, the governor's new executive policy and executive staff for transportation, and also testifying. We, Community Transit, work jointly with the Washington State Transit Association on transit funding issues as well as transit safety. In the final transportation budget, budget support grants, the green grants and regional mobility grants were not greatly impacted, and we were able to, the legislature was able to keep our Kids Ride Free program, which is huge. So overall, transit did fairly well this session, but a lot of the funds were skinnied down a little. So regarding transit safety, which is a huge priority for us, Rick was asked to testify in front of the Senate Transportation Committee, along with Metro and WISTA, on public transit safety issues and the importance of ensuring the well-being of our employees as well as our riders. As part of the Senate Transportation budget, initially there was $100 million in transit authority safety and security grants, and but the proposal did not make the final cut. That you'll probably see more of that in the future. Some of the things we're ahead of, that money could have gone for barrier doors, which, you know, we're already implementing, but that would have helped us with that cost also. Along the lines of safety, also the ATU, Amalgamated Transit Union, also had a bill dealing with public transit safety, which would have expanded assaults in the third degree. This is something we worked on 5 or 6 years ago with WISTA and couldn't get any traction on it. Unfortunately, they introduced the bill too late and didn't get a hearing on the bill this session. And we'll be working with them on safety issues in the future and partnering with them, hopefully, whenever we can on safety. So so now let's talk about our projects. We can go to the second slide. So Community Transit was extremely fortunate to be able to get all of their funding requests met this session. You can see under the regional mobility grants, we received $15 million for our Swift Gold Line. I think this may be the largest award for a regional mobility grant. And there was a special process we had to go through. You can talk to Deb and the staff. It was quite a deal, but we were successful in getting that $15 million, just over $1 million in commute trip reduction program. And then the green grants, we were able to get $9 million for electrification infrastructure for our Hardison campus. We will start receiving funds from Move Ahead Washington for our three $10 million bus rapid transit grants for Green Line, Gold Line, and Silver Line. And what was the last one on the bottom there? Is there one more? Bus and bus specific, right? Okay. And then we received almost $2 million for our DART paratransit. So let me just give you a real quick example of how kind of crazy things were this session. That $9 million green transportation grant was our first request for the green grants. And this is to help you with your facilities and your fleets, electrification, hydrogen, and all that good stuff. We went through the WashDOT process, which is a long process before the session, and our project was ranked #1. And so we got the letter, we're #1. Great. First time out of the box, we applied for these green grants, and somewhere between WashDOT and the governor's budget, the Office of Financial Management had some miscommunication, and there was a $12 million shortfall in the green grant fund. Well, usually what you do when there's shortfalls in these projects, you start cutting projects from the bottom of the list. Well, in OFM, what they did, they looked at 12 million, and they just looked at basically 2 projects that added up to 12 million and cut them. And one was ours, the #1 project, and the other one was Spokane Transit, which was #3. So before the session even started, we're going, what's going on here? So we had to go and meet with our legislators and the governor's staff and get things straightened out. And the end result was we were able to get that $9 million in green grant money. But that's just one little thing that has never happened before where, hey, we're short, we're just going to whack off the #1 project. And so kind of interesting stuff there. On the next slide. So these are budget provisos. We were also able to get a $2.5 million for a hydrogen fuel cell demonstration project. As I had mentioned before, we're continuing on with our transportation support grants, and the legislature allocated $9 million for the World Cup funding, which community transit will get right around $1 million for on that one. So that's it for our slides. But on our report, there's just 2 other things I want to go over. There's a lot of information in our report. And if you have questions afterwards, please feel free to email us or the staff on this. But the first page of the report has a lot of good information on how the transportation budget was put together and all that good stuff. So in wrapping up here, there's just a couple things I wanted to talk about. One was under the budget provisos, there was a PTBA annexation. Senator Leas put some language in his budget to allow a city and a PTBA to annex subject to an interlocal agreement. So this was not our language. This was not Everett's language. This wasn't a transit language. This is Senator Leas looking at, are there other options that we can merge transits along with the current options that are available, like going to the ballot and all of those things. So that language is in there. We're still looking at that and talking to Everett about that also. And then there was just one bill that directly affected PTBAs. 1418, that was the PTBA governance bill. This is a voluntary bill that would allow PTBAs to have up to 2 additional voting board members that are transit unions, not transit unions, to have up to 2 additional voting board members that are transit users. This is basically the inner city transit model. I don't know if you guys know inner city down in Thurston County, but they have had 2 non-elected voting officials on their board since day one. So a lot of other bills on the report. There are bills that we're looking at and seeing how they affect us in the long run. And but overall, I think we're very happy with how the session came out. We worked very well with our legislators, staff, and our association, and in the end, we did well. So,
Are there questions for board members for Mr. Jurassic today? Thank you for your work down there, by the way, and your service, 24 years. Wow. Anybody on the dais?
No, thank you, DeVore. It's very good.
Yeah.
I'm glad it was you instead of me.
I have a question.
Okay, Councilmember
all
Merrill.
right.
Yeah, on the annexation possibilities between
to organizations. And we can follow up on this later, but I just wanted to begin thinking about it. Is there language in there on how you would handle funding differentials between two merging agencies?
No, there's not. And remember, this is a budget proviso,
Mm.
so it only lasts technically 1 year, 2 years at the max.
Oh,
But they could change this in the supplemental budget next year.
Hmm.
They could reinsert this language in 2 years and keep it in the budget and keep it going. So,
wow.
but the language is not written in stone. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you
welcome.
for that clarification. It's good. Anybody online, any board members? Okay, Mr. Jurassic, thank you so much for your
You're welcome.
presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Devor. Okay, second presentation is the draft 2025-2030 Transit Development Plan. Sophie Luthen is here to help us out with this. Take it away, Sophie.
Thank you. Sorry, this is still on. Great. So I'm here to give you a quick update on our draft 2025 to 2030 transit development plan. Where has the time gone? We're up to 2030 as our horizon year, which is very exciting. So as a quick reminder, what is the TDP? So this is a 6-year plan, which we update annually. It's required by Washington state law. It gives an overview of our agency, who we are, what service we operate, and some of our recent accomplishments. And we also use the TDP as a tool to implement our long-range planning vision. And then to just show that a little more visually, so our long-range plan sets a vision for 25 or so years into the future. The transit development plan gives us a then 6-year horizon of starting to implement some of those visions identified in the long-range plan. And then the TDP further feeds into our budget process, which I'm getting out of the habit of saying annual budget process now that we're moving to a 2-year cycle. Just a quick overview of our project schedule. So we've been working for several months now, getting the plan pulled together. I gave this presentation at our SACD committee meeting in May. And today will be the start of a formal public comment period on the draft plan. We'll have a public hearing to solicit comments on the draft plan at the July Board of Directors meeting. That will also be the end of the public comment period. Then I'll go back to committee in July and then to the August Board of Directors meeting as an action item. So quick recap on kind of the structure of the document. So it has kind of several distinct sections, an overview of our strategic priorities and goals, a kind of review of our agency, so our structure of our agency, the services that we operate, things like that. Then we dedicate some space to what we did in 2024, which was a big year, as you'll see on a later slide. And then we outline what our plans are for these next 6 years. And then lastly, we have a financial plan section describing how we expect to fund all these exciting things. And kind of new this year on the plan, we've redesigned the document. So I've got some little screenshots here on the slide. So the idea behind this redesign was to make the plan a little more reader friendly, a little bit easier to kind of follow. So really hoping that this kind of new and improved plan, while it still has the same elements, the same kind of sections that previous versions had, we hope that it's just a little easier to navigate and read with this new structure. So excited to hear what folks think about that. So touching on some of the highlights of what's in the plan. So in 2024, we had a really big year. As you probably all remember, we launched our 2024 and beyond network in alignment with the launch of Link Light Rail extending to Linwood. We had continued growth in boardings throughout our system. We had a couple of swift launches, our Orange Line and Blue Line expansion. We had several facilities master plan projects that were completed. We had several ZIP shuttle pilot launches. We've continued to make progress on our zero emissions program and running out of breath. And we made a couple of fare changes. So it was quite the year. Looking ahead, we are continuing to implement our 2024 and beyond network. So while we did the initial restructure, there's continued investment in service and improved frequencies, span, et cetera, through 2026. And then we have kind of continued service growth planned through 2030. We expect to see a few more ZIP shuttle zones on the horizon. We've still got several capital projects going on, including SWIFT projects, our Green Line extension and our Gold Line, which are in various planning phases, and then facilities master plan. So continuing to work through that series of projects, which includes some projects related to our zero emission transition. We're continuing to, again, work on our zero emissions transition and plan for scaling through these next 6 years of our fleet. And then some other programs highlighted. We have a speed and reliability program that's kind of picking up speed, a bus stop program, improving those customer amenities, and a continued focus on safety and security. And then our financial plan, so some of the key cost drivers in the 6-year horizon, those sort of big ticket items are service growth through 2030, our zero emissions fleet transition, our facilities master plan projects, and those SWIFT BRT projects. In terms of revenue forecasting, we're forecasting a leveling off of revenues this year through the rest of 2025 based on what we've seen over the last several months to a year, and then projecting a return to our historic growth that we've seen in 2026 and on from there. And then in terms of next steps, so as I mentioned, we're kicking off the public comment period through July 3rd. We'll have a public hearing on July 3rd, and then come back to the August board meeting. And during this public comment period, there's several ways to provide comments. We'll have a kind of online open house format for web comments. We have an email inbox folks can use. Folks can call our public phone line, social media, et cetera. So really looking to get feedback on the plan from folks. And that's all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, Sophie, thank you. Are there questions from board members at the dais today? About the plan? Okay, anything online, any hands raised? Okay, Sophie, thank you. Looks like there's no more questions. Appreciate your presentation. Okay, we're on to CEO report. Rick, you want to just take that away? I bet you will. I bet you will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And
Yes, sir.
members of the board, always a pleasure. We got a full agenda today, so I'll tick through a couple items in the written report and we can get on with our business. I did want to flag that last month I attended the APTA Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. Very well-attended conference. We're seeing APTA activities in general this year being robustly attended, given all the chatter and uncertainty around transportation policy. So we had an opportunity to hear from leaders in Congress on both the House and the Senate and Republican and Democrat about the work underway to attempt to reauthorize the bipartisan infrastructure law, which, believe it or not, is due for renewal at the end of this year. We heard from Secretary Duffy as well, and we heard from a number of key congressional staff. Had some Hill visits as well, got to meet with both senators, and we shared our priorities for the reauthorization in terms of continuing funding in the IIJA as a baseline, and and a number of other things. The week prior to my trip, Deb joined the EASC fly-in along with Mayor Frizzell and a number of other Snohomish County leaders. So over a period of 2 weeks, we had a relatively robust touch-in with our delegation about community transit priorities and also Snohomish County priorities. Let's see, in addition to that, closer to home, I had the opportunity to ride Sound Transit's new light rail segment in Redmond on May 10th. That's adding 2 stations to the east end of the line, and that's sort of the last big step before the full opening of the 2 line, which is now scheduled for Q1 of 2026 across Lake Washington. We're watching that very closely because that has big implications for rail capacity up here in Snohomish County. So we're eagerly looking forward to that, and hopefully it occurs before the World Cup. Attended EASC trustees meeting last week, and we've been hosting this spring a number of educational programs here at Cascade and on our various campuses. Scriber Lake High School came in to see us last week, and a couple of weeks prior to that, we had the Tulalip vocational program as well. So continuing to engage with the community educational efforts. Legislatively speaking, I touched on the reauthorization process. We've also been advocating with our delegation members for the earmarks that we had last year to be rolled over to this year. So we've been in regular contact with Senators Murray and Cantwell on that, as well as Representatives Larson and Del Bene. We are advocating in general on the reauthorization, as I said, for full funding levels, and particularly for the CIG program, which has been an important source of funding for our BRT projects, Orange and Green, and in the future, our Gold Line. So that's something we'll continue to engage on. Don't need to touch too much on the state. As you just heard DeVore's report, as he indicated, there's a lot of detail in his written report. So please take a look at that when you get a chance. Here in the region, I had my first one-on-one meeting with the new CEO at Sound Transit, Dow Constantine, and we've set up monthly one-on-ones. And we're planning a visit here for him to come up and take a look at our facilities sometime in the near future. Have a Revive I-5 update. You probably have heard, but just in case you haven't, starting July 21st for 4 weeks in the middle of the summer, 2 northbound lanes across the Ship Canal Bridge will be closed for necessary rehab. The express lanes will be open in the northbound direction during that time. We're obviously expecting to see traffic disruptions and potentially a significant mode shift to transit. We're obviously going to be working to communicate with our customers and working with our partners to coordinate our messaging to support that effort. So that'll give us our first taste of what it'll be like when that travel corridor is closed down for more extended periods in the future. Internally, we got the budget development process kicked off. So as you'll recall, we're now developing a 2-year budget. So we're excited to undertake that work. We're keeping a very close eye on the economic conditions outside the agency. I've told the staff that we want to plan in our budget to maintain our service growth and to keep our promises under the 2024 and beyond plan, but also take a prudent approach to forecasting on the economic side and be ready to pivot at a moment's notice if we need to. Because we've been in relatively strong financial condition, we have a lot of flexibility to navigate some uncertainty. So as we enter the budget development process, we expect that to be a topic of conversation with the board as we go. You heard during public comment a little bit about TransDev. The contracted services transition for commuter bus continues. TransDev is our contractor both for DART and commuter bus. We brought our first set of bus drivers over from TransDev a couple of weeks back, so that process has started. And we're excited to see that happening. And that'll pick up speed over the course of the year. We are bringing in a couple of routes, a couple of 900 routes at our current shakeup, and then another one at the fall service change. So you'll see that transition occurring at regular intervals over the rest of the year, pursuant to the budget amendment that was adopted at our last meeting. As well, on DART, we have been looking into DART service quality and service performance for a couple of reasons. It's been a topic of discussion here with the board about how that service has performed in response to customer feedback. We had a rough patch a couple of years back, and we've started to see customer satisfaction and ridership rebound. We're coming toward the end of our current contract with Transdev, and we have a decision ahead about exercising an option on that. So our staff have been conducting focus groups with DART customers to get feedback specifically about that potential decision and looking for opportunities to improve the service and to continue to tailor it to our customers' needs. So that's been an innovative approach to direct customer engagement to help improve that service. On the FTA front, we have just completed our triennial review that happens every 3 years. FTA was on site this week for their final assessment. They shared positive comments about the agency's responsiveness. This is a triennial process we go through to maintain our funding eligibility for federal grants. We have an exit conference scheduled for next week, and hopefully that'll close out with no issues. And lastly, we've got some marketing campaigns in full swing with the summer season. June is Ride Transit Month. That's the month of the year that we really try to promote transit and attract new customers. So there's lots of activities underway. We've got sponsorships this year with the Everett Aqua Sox, and we've also followed on our popular online campaign with Rick Steves with a new one with Ken Jennings of Jeopardy fame called The Transit Effect, which is really fun and kind of delves into the history behind transit in Snohomish County and the role it plays here in our economy. So you can check that out on our website and through our social media channels. So with that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Rick. Any questions or comments from on the dais? Online? Okay, thank you, Rick, so much. All right, we're on to committee reports. First, we have the executive committee. The executive committee met on May 15th. Councilmember Daughtry, Councilmember Merrill, and I attended. The CEO report, as was just shared, was provided, and the next committee meeting is scheduled for June 18th at 10 a.m. All right, the Finance Performance and Oversight Committee, Councilmember Daughtry has that for us today, I believe.
Thank you. The Finance Performance Oversight Committee met on Thursday, May 15th, 2025 in a Zoom format. Board members Mayor John Nearing, Councilmember Strom Peterson, and I attended. The committee reviewed and recommended 2 items to the consent agenda. Approval of the April 25 monthly expenditures and payroll vouchers will be items 7E through I. Award RFP 2025-049 task order for onboard survey. Action items, the committee reviewed and recommended 1 item to action agenda, which is the award of RFP 2025-032 for vehicle cleaning services. We also received the Q1 2025 financial report. Nathan Roberts, Director of Finance, represented the financial report to the committee. The copy of this report is included in your packet. The Q1 2025 performance report by Olivia Woods, Research and Analytics, presented the 2025 performance, Q1 2025 performance report. Copy of that is also in your packet. We also received the sales tax report, which is what everybody wants to hear about. No? Well, I thought we did. April 2025 community transit collected approximately 13.9 million in sales tax revenue, approximately 1 million less than budgeted. A copy of that is in the packet also. Diesel fuel update and report for April 2025. Average cost year to date through April 25 was $2.92 per gallon, while the average cost per gallon budgeted for 2025 was $4. Resulted in a favorable variance of $1.08 per gallon year to date for April. In other business, Unjo Greenhouse, Chief People and Financial Officer, provided clarification for the overall cost impact of the contracted services transition to the in-house services to further address the questions raised around the budget amendment during the May 1st, 2025 board meeting. The next Finance Performance and Oversight Committee meeting is scheduled for 2 p.m. Thursday, June 12th at 2025 via Zoom.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Daughtry, appreciate that. And Strategic Alignment and Capital Development Committee, I have Councilmember Merrill. Present that.
Yes, the Strategic Alignment and Capital Development Committee meeting was held remotely over Zoom on May 21st. Meeting was attended by Councilmember Dunn, Councilmember Schweddy, Labor Representative Julian, and Councilmember Merrill. The committee reviewed and forwarded 2 consent items to today's agenda: award of the task order number 2025-45 Facilities Master Plan Phase 4 Cache Park Campus Improvements Feasibility Study. The second was the task order 2025-20 on-call plan review and engineering support. We also reviewed and forwarded 3 action items. The first was the award of the RFQ number 2025-009 for the Swift BRT and the Green Line Extension Design, and awarding RFQ 2025-13 for Swift BRT Green Line Extension Southern Terminal Preliminary Design. And then number 3 was the award of the RFP 2025-53 CAD AVL Impact Study. And we have some few items to talk about on that. A few notes on that is that the CAD AVL technology is the technology that supports the management of transit operations. It's nearing the end of its useful life, and the impact study is an early step that will evaluate the needs and recommendations for replacing the system in future years. Today's action is to award the contract for the impact study not to exceed $200,000, but the committee recommended the presentation today include the planning assumption for the eventual replacement costs. These are all coming up in the action items. The committee received an informational update regarding draft 2025 to 2030 Transit Development Plan presentation previously presented in today's agenda. And the next meeting of the Strategic Alignment and Capital Development Committee is scheduled for Wednesday, June 18th at 2 p.m.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Merrill. Any questions on any of these reports? Online or otherwise? Okay, we'll move on to consent items. Would anyone like to remove an item from the consent agenda? We have 4 items. If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, then we have a motion by Mayor Naring and a second by Councilmember Daughtry. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as listed here, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, we're on to action items. We have 4 action items today. A little work to do here. The first is award RFQ 2025-009 Swift BART Green Line Extension Design. We have Morgan McGrath, I believe, coming to tell us all about that. Thank you, Morgan. Appreciate it. Microphone on. Thank you. Oh, that was good.
All right.
There
Can
you
hear
go.
me well? Perfect. Well, thank you for having me. I have 2 consent agenda items today, 2 different proposals or RFQs, request for qualifications that we had. The Swift Green Line Extension and the Swift Green Line Southern Terminal Facility. First, I'll be speaking about the Green Line Extension, but they are obviously related, as you can tell by the name. So the Swift Green Line Extension will be extending the Green Line from Canyon Park Park and Ride to downtown Bothell. The design of this project will include 4 new stations at 228th, 240th, and at Reeder Way. We have a future infill station at Northeast 201st Place, and then we have 3 shared stride stations that you can see on the map in blue. There's 1 station that's not identified, which will be at Beardsley and 195th as well. Within that yellow clouded area, that is where the Bothell Multimodal Improvements Project will be going. So we're working closely, I think I've shared that before, with the city of Bothell, and there will be less significant civil and work required on that part of the station implementation, and then the 228th station pair will have more scope, which I'll speak to in a minute. Next slide. So during our request for qualifications, we found that Petite was our most qualified vendor. Their scope of work, as I mentioned, will include preliminary and final design, environmental review and permitting, real estate coordination support, and that's specifically around that station at 228th. And then as we get in construction, they'll provide construction and engineering support services as well. So the project schedule, we'll be kicking this off this year. Design and environmental review will bring us into 2026 with some permitting. There will be a little bit of a break between then and construction as we're so closely tied to the City of Bothel's project. Their timelines are starting the project somewhere between 2027 and completing by 2031, which is why you can see that gap there. And then I don't think you can see it also, but it assumes that we're launching the service in 2030. So. All right, with that being said, I recommend that the board of directors authorize the chief executive officer to negotiate and award contract 2025-009 to Petite for a not to exceed amount of $1,312,923.18 for the Swift Green Line extension design.
All right, thank you, Morgan. Are there questions from board members at the dais about this today for Morgan? Anything you'd like to know about it? About online? Going once, going twice for questions. Okay, I'd entertain a motion then for RFP 2025-009.
I move that the Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate and award contract 2025-009 to Petite Inc. for a not to exceed amount of $1,312,923.18 for the Swift BRT Green Line extension design.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Merrill and second by Councilmember Sweaty. Councilmember Merrill is the maker of the motion. Do you have anything you'd like to say about it? Anything more that's not been said?
This is the second time I've reviewed with it, and my questions earlier were all answered and presented today. So
Okay, all
quite,
right,
quite
all right.
good with this.
I have a question about the motion. So because we're asking for the chief executive officer to negotiate and award the contract, can we negotiate it down?
That's not a chair question, I can tell you that.
This is the price that has been negotiated
Oh, okay.
between the staff and the contractor and the procurement team, and reflects fair market value for the services and best value from among the firms that proposed. So I would be executing the contract at this amount.
Okay.
All right, so this motion has been made, seconded, and discussed. All those in favor of approving RFQ 2025-009, please signify by saying aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, Morgan. And you do have, you don't get to go sit down. You just have to sit there and start the next one. So second item, award RFQ 2025-13 Swift BRT Green Line Extension Southern Terminal preliminary design. Okay, Morgan, you're
All right.
back on.
Well, we're back to the same map,
Yeah, that's
but
good.
we're looking at a slightly different area. So we're looking at the Southern Terminal Facility, which would be a facility to support not only the Swift Green Line extension, but also a local service. We're looking for this facility to include the operator restroom, layover bays, and future opportunity charging. The site location is still not quite pinned down yet. That's actually, there's a portion of this contract that's around that planning effort to really hone in on what we need and where space is available. Okay, so then for this one, after our RFQ went out, we found that KPFF was the most qualified vendor. Their scope of work, as I mentioned, includes that feasibility of potential sites. And we've really identified east of the 405. would be where we're looking at. Conceptual design, and this one would go to preliminary design, and then as well as environmental review and the NEPA process on this project. So the schedule on this one follows closely in alignment with the Green Line extension. We would kind of wrap up our planning efforts later this year, going into an environmental review, design, permitting, and then into construction, and then being ready for the Green Line extension in late 2029.
Okay, we're back to a motion. You want to read it for us?
I'm supposed to read it, right?
Oh, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, we like to hear it two or three times.
That's why I got so nervous. I was like, am I supposed to?
Oh, you can do it. Go ahead.
All right. That the Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate and award contract 2025-013 to KPFF Consulting Engineers, Inc. for a not to exceed amount of $1,222,668.82 for the Swift BRT Green Line Extension Southern Terminal preliminary design.
Good job. Thank you, Morgan. Are there questions to Dias? Oh, we have several hands go up over there. I don't, it was kind of a race. I think we'll go with Jan first. See, I think her hand was up first.
In there, it says that of that amount includes $294,000 going to 4 disadvantaged business enterprises. Could you explain how that works?
You know, I think that's a procurement question. I don't know it offhand how that calculation is exactly compiled.
Or what it's spent on?
I think the CEO knows.
So we have a goal every year of small business engagement that we set with the Federal Transit Administration. These are programs that are, oh, here comes Sally. So we encourage our contractors to engage small business on their teams so that we can spread our work amongst as many qualified businesses in Snohomish County as possible. And so that's what that funding would be going for, is those small businesses that are part of the KPFF team.
That are disadvantaged.
Yes.
That's what that says. Okay.
Is
Did I get it right?
Sally, is that
though?
okay?
Eat for anything.
Yeah.
Good job.
Okay. Councilmember Merrill.
Yeah, a question that I didn't think to ask when this came before the strategic alignment was, since this is going to be a shared service with some of the local transportation, is there any shared cost on the development of this terminal?
So we actually did a previous engagement study with some of our partners. And so we're at this time not actively looking to cost share. This will be a federally funded project, and we're looking to just provide what we need. And when we're working with them in tandem as well. But yeah, at this point, it will be a community transit.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions on the dais tonight? About online? Do we have, see anybody there? I don't think we do. So we have a motion on the floor. So that the Board of Directors authorize Chief Executive Officer to negotiate and award contract 2025-13 KPFF Consulting Engineers for not to exceed $1,222,668.82 for Swift BART Green Line Extension Southern Terminal preliminary design. All those in favor? I made the
second on that.
I made the motion for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, we already had a motion and a second on the floor. right?
Well, we had staff read a motion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we're ready to vote. I think we're ready to vote.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Mayor, nobody made the motion.
oh, I thought we had a motion made.
I thought that,
You did the motion really well.
I thought the Mayor Roberts was making the motion
Well, no,
as chair.
I did it then. I made the motion and you seconded it, right?
That's right.
Right.
We have
So,
agreement.
I don't have anything else to say about it. And so all those in favor of passing this motion signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? It passes unanimously in all the confusion. Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you so
Appreciate it
much.
so much. All right, our next item is to award the RFP 2025-053 CAD AVL Impact Study. Chaz Stearns is going to introduce our speaker, I think, today, and I'll let you do that.
Thank you, members. Testing. good copy. So a couple things. First of all, I want to warn the members of the board that I'm going to actually say what CAD AVL it actually means and not use the acronym. So that will take up some time in my short introduction. I'm the IT leader for community transit, and I'm here to introduce Keisha McDew, who is leading our intelligent transport systems program. And so she is the IT leader most directly in contact with the CAD AVL, as well as the other constellation of transit applications that support that. CAD AVL stands for Computer Aided Dispatch Automatic Vehicle Location. And it touches all aspects of transit operations here at Community Transit. We've had the current version for over 12 years. And when we replace the system, it's going to require that we take a measured and analytical approach to doing this. And today's ask is the first step in that long road to the final implementation of a new system. A couple points I'd like to share with you from my perspective is, this project, much like every other project, is a progressive elaboration. It begins with this impact study, but then we're going to define our requirements. We're going to evaluate systems and combinations of systems. We're going to select vendors, maybe multiple vendors, and then we're going to implement the system over time. From a financial perspective, this is a big ticket item due to its centrality to our operations and also the complexity of what we're getting on board for the future. Members of the Strategic Alignment and Capital Development Committee rightfully asked to have that planning figure note what the total cost is that we're using as the initial estimation of the cost, and that's $26 million for this system. And it's been already included in the long-range financial plan and the transit development plan. So that's the working figure we have. But obviously the planning that we do here, beginning with this first step, will refine that figure. And then over time, committees and boards will have the opportunity to understand what we understand about the evolution of the system and where we're going with it. I just like to leave you with a thought. Keisha is going to talk to you about the here and now and the study, the impact study. But this is our opportunity to look at what we understand now and our future requirements. We're going to have to develop through this concepts of operations for how we actually do the service in the future, which will include incorporating the technology to support multi-propulsion fleet to include diesel, hybrid, and zero emissions. And then there'll be integrations of related systems as well that we haven't yet conceived of. The final part will be like figuring out how to thoughtfully roll this out to the agency in a timeline that supports financial expenditure as well as operational need. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Keisha.
Thank you, Chaz. Can you hear me? Okay. So as Chaz mentioned, I'm going to talk to you about our CAD impact study. So not only what a CAD is. Yes, I can. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. Not only what the CAD is, where we are now and where we're hoping to go, because this is the first phase of a multi-year effort to replace our CAD. So making sure that you have a full understanding of where we are. Whoop. Wrong button. Oh, thank you. So Chaz already mentioned computer-aided dispatch automatic vehicle location is what CAD AVL stands for. Our current vendor is in it. So our full implementation went live in about 2015. And so even implementation to begin with was a long process. So kind of setting the stage for that. Some background, our system is kind of ending or near the end of its useful life. And so there's some research and kind of investigation required to support that. Initial conversations started in 2021 when we did a request for information. And what we saw, the market didn't have the modern options that we were looking for. And so we're kind of bringing that back. Because the market has evolved since then. We also know that the agency has grown and changed, and so our needs are different. Nope. I think there's a slide missing. Okay, can we find it? It's kind of a critical one. No? Okay. Well, I will talk to you about the slide that's missing. So that particular slide walks through kind of what our CAD AVL system is. It had pictures on the side of different elements. One of those starting out is kind of dispatch. So, oh, thanks, Jazz. Dispatch is a key function of our CAD system. That means our dispatch team comes into work, they log in, they're integrating with our CAD or interacting with our CAD system all day long, whether it's assigning a operator to a coach or watching the coaches as they're driving along the road, they're communicating with operators. All of those things are done through our CAD system. Our field supervisors are also interacting with the CAD system while they're on the road. So it's a key component to our operations team. Another is our operators. So there's a screen in their kind of cabin where they also interact with the CAD, whether it's sending a canned message back to dispatch, having information about their route. It's on the MDT, mobile data terminal, which is a part of the CAD system. So kind of key pieces throughout the work. Reporting is another function of our CAD system. So as you know, we have information that has to go to NTD, National Transit Database, things like on-time performance. That information comes from our CAD AVL. So making sure that it's quality information is important for us as an agency. And then last large function is rider data. And so that means if a customer is at Linwood City Center or Ash Way and they're looking at the signs where we show our departure information, that departure information comes from our CAD system. So the CAD impacts not only us internally, but our external customers. Thank you.
Rachel, pause for a moment here. Are the slides? Okay, we don't know. Okay.
It's okay. I can talk to them. Thank you. So the next point was talking about our CAD has been in use for a while. We know that the agency has changed quite a bit since that full implementation went live. We also know that the agency is growing and changing. We have things like zero emissions and transit security officers that we didn't account for in the initial implementation. So making sure that as we're going into this next phase, that we're looking for something that's modern and agile and can support what we know is coming and continued growth is really important. And so that kind of brings us to this slide, which is the opportunity definition. And that's making sure that we are really mindful in the approach in looking at a new CAD system, how it'll impact the agency, the needs, again, both now and in the future. And that is why we're doing this impact study to kind of start that research process. So the approach for the impact study itself, we're going to start out by making sure that the vendor understands community transit, our people, processes, and technology. So that'll be throwing a bunch of documentation at them and information, things like the TDP, the LRP, what are the tools we're using right now? What does our staffing look like? So that they can understand who we are before they help us with the next steps. So phase 2 of the project is conducting kind of a industry scan, what's available in the CAD market space. Also is looking at peer agencies that have either recently implemented a CAD or replaced a CAD system to get some information on lessons learned so that we're taking advantage of that and we're not stepping into the same issues that they may have. The third part, which I think is probably the most important, is interviewing internal stakeholders. So areas of the business, how do you use the CAD right now? what's working, what's not working. What are you going to need in the next 5-ish years? What does that look like to make sure that we're accounting for that in our plan? And then the last part would be to kind of analyze all of the information from the first 3 pieces and come back to us on how do we break up this project? We know it's multi-year. We know there are lots of things to do, but how do we make it more manageable? How do we make it fit community transit? Timeline-wise, we're looking at, coming to this group today, hopefully kick off in Q3, and we estimate completing in Q1 of 26. I think the recommendation part also. was
Okay,
locked.
well, thank you. I bet there might be some questions on this. I'm just guessing. We'll start with right down here at the end of the dais. Councilman Sweaty.
Do we have any idea if the new CAD program will be written in the United States and that we will not have to be paying tariffs on the $26 million?
That is a good question. I would say we don't have any definitive answers at this point. And that this impact study will help us start to answer some of those questions.
Okay, and to be clear, this first step is just the study, right? So
Just
we're
the
not
study.
approving really anything, and
Nope.
it's going to take a while. So other questions from the dais? Councilman Frizzell.
Thank you.
Mayor Frizzell, thank you.
So what are the deficiencies that we're having right now that is causing us to have to reevaluate and consider, I don't know what our not to exceed number up there is, but what's going on right now that causes us the need to make a change?
Well, I think it's not necessarily deficiencies, but I think it's time to kind of look at where we are as an agency and what we need. There's also a slide that's missing that I forgot that I think will help. If you don't mind me going back.
Sure.
Part of what we're looking for in an ideal future system is kind of a sweet spot between the needs of transportation operations, zero emissions, and security, so that all of their needs are met. So things like if a coach operator pushes the silent alarm, we would want our CAD system to kind of alert both dispatch, transportation dispatch, and security so that they can work together in real time instead of what's currently happening, in which dispatch gets the call, they have to call the transit security, and so there's a lag in information. So we'd like to be able to do things like that. For zero emissions, we would like state of charge to be available for dispatch within our CAD system so that they're assigning the right coach to a body of work so that a coach isn't getting stranded. So that's one aspect. I think the other aspect is technology changes rather quickly. And so making sure that in what we choose, it's a good kind of stable base platform that we can continue to modify and is agile to the changing needs of the organization.
Okay, I really appreciate especially those first 2 points, which guide me towards we need to make a change because we're missing out. So I think that it's always good to look at systems that have been in place for a while to see what else is out there, to see what other people in our industry, other organizations are using. So that's always a good thing.
Councilman Daughtry.
Yeah, the system now is 10 years old and it's end of life, as you said it. Is the future, in the future that you're looking at, is that future defined in 10-year increments?
That is a good question. I am going to hand that one off.
Yes,
to Chad.
that.
Yeah, I mean, as an IT professional, I've always used the 5 years as the on-ramp, off-ramp for technologies. With this particular technology, we every 5 to 7 years, where the infrastructure it sits on, we're refreshing, but we're not refreshing the code. We're not like changing the basic architecture of the system. We're not bringing in all of the other feeds. So at 10 years might be the right number. to plan for. So like, planning out instead of saying, well, we expect we're going to redo this system in 5 years. We need this to last 10 years, which may change like how we architect it, how we build it out, how much we spend up front to make sure that we can integrate with future systems. When I think about this, because zero emissions also lives in IT, I think about like all the yard management, charge management, security systems, communication systems that we might want to bring into this, because to me, this is like the central application to operations. And we'll want to see like, how do we create an operating picture for, dispatch and maintenance and any other part of the organization that might need to see more than just their one lane.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the dais? I can't see above. Anything from online, folks? Hands up. Chaz, I think this is my first time to hear this. I think you said something kind of magical to me. This is our central application to operations. I mean, that's, we're not replacing our phones here. This is kind of the backbone of the way that this operates. Would that be from a layman's point of view? Is that,
That's the
am
way
I
I look-
butchering that, or?
Yeah, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
all right. Okay, all right, we'll need a motion then back up on the board. Entertain a motion for this.
I'd move to recommend that the Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate and award RFP 2025-053, that's a CAD AVL impact study to Arcadius US Incorporated for a not to exceed amount of $200,000.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Daughtry.
I'll second that.
And seconded by Mayor John Marine.
Neary.
Councilmember, I said John Marine, yeah, thank you, John there. I have just I'm gonna need counseling to get over this. I don't know why I say that. I know your family quite well, but when I'm right here, that's you're Mr. Marine anyway. Seconded by Councilmember, by Mayor Neary. Please.
Would you like another shovel?
No, I'm doing quite well with that one, actually. Councilmember Doctor, do you have any thing to
No.
add to the motion?
No, I think,
Help me out here.
no, I just think, yeah, I just think that we need to be looking ahead at these things. And then the reason I asked that question is because we've waited 10 years to start looking at this now. I think we really don't want to wait that long next time, because it is rapidly shifting with technology. All technologies are rapidly shifting, and I don't know how we can keep up with it in the first place. So you've got a very hard job to do, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it comes out. I'm hoping I'm around when it happens,
Okay.
because I don't know.
Councilmember Barrow.
You just don't.
That is your name, right, Councilmember Barrow?
It is.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
I have a couple comments on this. I fully support it. Software that's 10 years old, especially as much as it is now, is old enough to have grandchildren
Yeah,
in software years.
yeah.
And I wanted to go back to the APTA conference that I was at last year. And one of the things that came forward to me in some of the sessions is that the entire public transportation system has been very cautious in adopting technology, looking at solutions that have been around for some time. So I think this is an opportunity to take a look at that and maybe get a little bit ahead of that curve and do some things that we're doing. It was only last year, maybe even, last year, that we approved a project to get people off of paper rerouting and get that on there. And that kind of gives you a sense of, at least in my transportation, that's 80s technology. So it's the chance to redo that. And I fully support that we need to look at this, especially with, as they say, all the new technologies that are coming forward. So that's my
Okay.
take on it.
Any other questions? I just had one. So is this are we replacing existing functionality, or is this a way more functionality just in terms of what we're doing? I mean, was the old system, we're not just replacing the old system, this is much more robust, is that correct?
That would be the goal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. All right. All those in favor of approving RFP 2025-03, the CAD AVL impact study, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes yes. Passes unanimously. Thank you for your help on this. It's good. All right. Thank you, Chas. All right. Award Item D is award RFP 2025-032 Vehicle Cleaning Services. David Tidwell is going to be here to, my friend from Oklahoma. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I like your accent.
Thank you. Is this working? Okay. So you have my 45 slides? Yeah, no? Okay.
Too.
This shouldn't take any more than an hour or two.
You got 3 minutes, just so you know.
Right on. I'm on it. Community Transit has issued request for proposal 2530032 for vehicle cleaning services at Hardison and Cache Park operating bases. The contract covers approximately 257 buses, 138 service vehicles, and 450 van pool vehicles. With the phased transition to direct operations of contracted bus services by 2026, the scope and cost of the cleaning services are expected to increase over time. The solicitation went out on March 6th. We got a very positive response. We had 18 vendors that downloaded the solicitation, and then we received 6 proposals. The top scoring vendor was Advantage Building Services, which is the incumbent, with a base year price offer of $414,000. And the independent government cost estimate is $371,192. The 2025 vehicle maintenance budget includes sufficient authority to cover the cost of these services, including applicable sales tax. This contract is been expired since the beginning of May. We've been working off an extension. After our committee got together and went through all the proposals, Advantage was the clear-cut winner. And so that's what I'm asking for approval for.
Okay, all right. Are there questions of Councilmember Sweaty?
First of all, how often are the buses cleaned?
So they have a weekly schedule.
Okay.
It kind of depends though, on, sometimes a bus may not get cleaned on a weekly basis because it's in the shop for maintenance or those kinds of things, but it's a weekly basis. Yes.
Okay, my next question is, on the buses, is there sanitary sprays or whatever in case the coach operator needs them?
Yes, ma'am. We make sure they have that. Our operations folks brought that up to maintenance last year. And so we equip the boxes that they keep on there for the operators with a cleaner and towels to wipe things off.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Other questions up at the dais? Councilmember Merrill.
Yes, and the cleaning service, does this include any of the monitoring that we were looking at for drug residue on the interiors of the buses and including that in the cleaning contract?
The cleaning company doesn't do the monitoring. Those are the monitoring things that we do. But one of the things a couple of things that they do besides the normal standard cleaning is like when there's a biohazard on the bus, that's an unscheduled cleaning. So they'll come in and do that kind of stuff, or special cleanings for, parades and things like that. Anytime we have an outreach request for a bus, so they'll come in and do a special cleaning on the buses at that time.
Okay. Other questions on the dais? Up in the cloud? Okay, pretty straightforward. I'd entertain a motion.
Make the motion. I move that the Board of Directors authorize the Chief Executive Officer to negotiate and award contract RFP number 2025-032 vehicle cleaning services to Advantage Building Services for a not to exceed amount of $3 million plus tax for the full 5-year contract term.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Frizzell and seconded by Councilmember Tom Merrill. Are there any discussions at all on this? Pretty straightforward. All in favor of awarding RFP 2025-032 vehicle cleaning services contract please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
To all. Thank you, David. Appreciate your explanations. All right, Chair's report. Just that the next regular meeting is scheduled for July 3rd at 3 p.m. And we'll see here. We're working on rescheduling our July 17th, excuse me, board workshop to the following week in July. Still working on that. We have no executive session today, and so that's a good thing. So we're on to board communications, and we'll start with Councilmember Kim Daughtry.
Well, as you know, we lost a council member in Lake Stevens on Memorial Day. His name is Marcus Tagent. He and I have been on the council for 15 years together. It was rather shocking and really kind of hit our community hard because he's well known. Grew up and lived in Lake Stevens his entire life, except for the times that he was off being a Marine. So just have him in your thoughts for a little while, and I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Daughtry. That's not easy to share. Longtime friend of yours, and we appreciate you doing that. Councilmember Megan Dunn up in the stratosphere.
Hi, speaking from above. I just got back from a trip to Brussels and Iceland with Clean and Prosperous, and we were looking at different clean energy projects. So this was looking at how the EU invests their innovation funds and their modernization funds. And what I thought I'd share is I visited the VDL electric bus manufacturing company that was in Brussels. So I got to see their new Cydia bus, which has ergonomics for the driver and the technicians. They work on light, a new sidewall that's made with a light type of manufacturing, and they changed their battery placement to the wheelbase. So I can share those slides when they're sent. I can share the slides through staff with the rest of the board members if people are interested in learning more about the electric buses in Europe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Dunn. Mayor Christine Frizzell.
I don't have anything new to share.
Nothing going on in Linwood.
Oh.
No, we won't go there. I mean,
Go there.
Councilmember Merrill.
Pride Parade and Pride Days in Snohomish this weekend. That's it.
That's it. Okay. Mayor John Naring.
Thank you.
My friend.
That's
Used to be
right.
my friend.
Oh, still are. Just that I will be out of town on the 3rd, so I won't be able to make that meeting.
Mayor Naring, don't you have something else you'd like to share that's kind of went on in your family this week?
Oh, we did welcome our 4th grandchild into the world.
That's a good deal.
Little baby boy, Jude.
Very good.
Thank you.
And how many does that make for the Naring family? How many
4.
grandchildren?
2 boys,
No,
2 girls.
grandchildren.
2 boys, 2 girls. Yeah,
Okay.
4.
All
Yeah.
right. Very good. All right,
Good time.
Councilmember Storm Peterson up in the atmosphere.
Thanks. Nothing to add today. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Sweaty.
For everyone who doesn't know, Congressman Rick Larson is actually from Arlington, and his mother has lived there her whole life, and she passed away recently. That funeral will be next weekend, and I will be attending.
Okay. Thank you for that information, Jan. All right, board alternates. Councilmember Fulcher. She's there, I think. She was. Is she still there? Yes, she is. No. Yeah, she was there early. We lost her. Councilmember Mike Gallagher nothing from the off room today. Councilmember Mead, I don't see Councilmember Mead here. Councilmember Susan Payne.
Thank you. Nothing to report other than to come down into Edmonds and get a great meal.
All righty. All right, Mayor Koyoko Matsumoto Wright.
I have nothing to add to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Other business, is there any other business for the good of the order today? All right, then, if there's not, we'll adjourn at 4:25 p.m. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. Oh, you're welcome.
I wasn't sure whether under Robert's rules the chair can make a motion.